Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Hamashiach Yahushai. Today we're going to be reading out of Judges chapter 16, starting at 23 and finishing it through to see if we can see any other things found in these in this section that could edify us. And we'll dive into it. We'll start at 23. Then the lords of the Philistines gathered them together for to do a great sacrifice unto Dag-on their god, and to rejoice, for they said, Our God hath delivered Samson our enemy into our hand. And this precept here, the lords of the Philistines are commanding their people to hold a sacrifice in the name of their deity Dag-on for the deliverance of Samson to them in their hands. 24. And when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, Our God hath delivered into our hands our enemy, and the destroyer of our country, which sleweth many of us. And it came to pass, when their hearts were merry, that they said, Call for Samson, that he may make us sport. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport. They called to have Samson entertain them. They have always used our people for entertaining them as we were in captivities and transgressed our laws. And they've always used our understanding and our laws against us to cause us to sin and to have us remain under the curses. As you can see, when the serpent beguiled Eve and caused her to transgress, which ultimately got them thrown out of the garden. And in the section up above this one here, when Samson revealed his strength and his power, his oath that he broke with the Most High by revealing information about his strength, which is our God, ultimately our laws. 26. And Samson said unto the lad that held him by the hand, because they had taken his eyes, right? They had blurred his vision. They deceived him. Suffer me that I may feel the pillars which were upon the house standeth, that I may lean upon them. So he's asking the lad to let me feel the pillars. And as you go down, you see he was touching two pillars, right? In which these Philistines have built their understanding, their philosophies, their house, right? 27. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there. And there were upon the roof about 3,000 men and women that beheld while Samson made sport. 1,000 will fall at their left hand, 10,000 at their right hand. That right hand representing the hand of righteousness and understanding, which stems back to our law, statutes, and commandments. 28. And Samson called unto Yahweh and said, O Yahweh Elohim, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me, I pray thee, only this once, O Yahweh, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my two eyes. He's crying out to the Most High Yah to remember him, remember the covenant he made for him, because we know that a righteous man falleth 7 times and gets up, right? Judges chapter 16 and 22, it says, Howbeit the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaven. He has transgressed, and at some point he must have repented, because the Most High is ultimately going to hear him and grant him his vision and strength back, which is ultimately stands on our understanding and the precepts and the powers of righteousness and judgment. And Samson took hold of the 2 pillars the two pillars can represent our law, statutes, and commandments. And when Moses came down from the mountain holding two tablets, which was a condensed version of all our laws being put into two of these tablets, the two pillars, correct? Upon which the house stood. Their house that they have made had stood upon two pillars which represent our laws, our heritage, and on which it was borne up, of the one with his right hand and the other with his left hand. So we know that a house divided cannot stand, and we know that righteousness is in the right hand of the Father, and judgment would be on the left hand side. This could represent falsities of our laws, in which this house was built on falsities, because they have given sacrifices unto Dagon, their god, right? And 30. And Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people that were therein. So Samson ultimately made himself a sacrifice, showing the strength of our Elohim and of our laws. Like our Messiah did, he was the perfect sacrifice slain for the remissions of our sins, and he stood upon it boldly all the way to his execution and crucifixion, for the love and the strength and the truth in which our laws represent. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than they which he slew in his life. So Solomon took out a great number of people. He continued his mission in destroying these false gods and the temples and all these things which were commanded to. And I think we find that in Leviticus. The Most High says, to go into these lands and destroy these false gods and false idols. And in this carnal representation, it shows you a physical aspect of what our laws can do. In standing on righteousness, they can destroy lawlessness and reveal ultimately the power within. 31. Then his brethren and all the house of the father came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the burying place of Manoah his father, and he judged Israel 20 years. So I hope you were edified in this understanding how through the building up of other nations using biblical principles in the most grievous ways to overthrow the people, to have them commit sins for the benefit of building up their own desires, that through keeping our law, statutes, and commandments as it was told to us from the very beginning, to stand on these principles, to overthrow darkness and be the light to everyone. So until the next time, Shalom.